Today's reading is filled with accounts that personally I love. Accounts that show us who God is. We look at Numbers chapter 14 today. In Numbers 14, we see the reason why the Israelites had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. See, they were right there on the precipice of the promised land, but they disobeyed God. They did not listen to the scouts, and instead they rejected and said, we can't go into the land. And so God condemns them to 40 years in the wilderness for all the adult generation to die. 1 year for every day that they scouted the land because of their disobedience. In Numbers chapter 16, we see Korah's rebellion. Korah was a Levite that led a rebellion with Dathan and Abiram, and it resulted in the ground being opened up and them all being swallowed to show that God had chosen Moses and Aaron. And in Psalm 95, we see the call to worship God and to not harden our hearts. And in all of this reading today, Numbers 15 seems to pale in comparison to all of that because it deals with some of the laws. You know, it deals with some of the laws and some of the things that we may not be familiar with, and some of the things that we can very easily overlook in this narrative. But I want to read to you Numbers chapter 15, verse 37 through 41. In Numbers 15, beginning in verse 37. And the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them that throughout their generations they are to make tassels for the corner of their garments, and put a blue cord on the tassel of each corner, or they will serve as tassels for you to look at, so that you may remember all the Lord's commands and obey them, and not prostitute yourselves by following your own heart or your own eyes. In this way you will remember and obey all my commands and be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your King. And so we see here that they had to make tassels to go on their clothing. And these little tassels would be a reminder of the fact that they are to follow God's law and not sin. They were to be blue. Then this was the same color that would remind them of the coverings of the ark and the coverings of all the other different holy things when they traveled. It will remind them of the curtains there at the tent of meeting. It will remind them of the color that the high priest wore. These tassels would be a reminder to help them serve the Lord and to not sin. You know, you and I need reminders in our life as well. It may not be tassels on our clothes, but it may be something else. What can we set up in our lives to remind us to serve the Lord and not sin? Hope that you join me again tomorrow as we continue in the book of Numbers.